Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebi. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back once again. So my usual disclaimer, please, this video is strictly for educational purposes. Do not go searching out anybody that I talk about in this video. Don't send them any form of hate comment, threats, or violence. This channel does not support any of that. So today we are going over to Africa, specifically South Africa, hence the outfits. Let me give you guys a quick view of my outfits. So we call this a boo-boo gown. I don't know if you guys can see. So it's basically just a free-flowing gown. This is what we use when we want the rich auntie vibes. You know, I think a lot of people in Africa wear this, and it always comes with a scarf, and you can make it with different fabrics. This particular one is made with silk adire. Adire is a Nigerian fabric. So now let's get into today's topic. An American woman who I think is actually Congolese but living in America made a video that triggered the whole of South Africa, and I'm telling you guys that it was so serious that she got dragged. You know what I call intercontinental dragging? From the continent of America to the continent of Africa. She was dragged all over. It got carried on their blogs. People were doxing her, trying to find like information about her, releasing sensitive information about her, where she lives and stuff like that. Like, it was that serious. And what brought this up? It was basically an argument about the race of a South African singer who is trending now, Tyla. Yeah, that's her, and that is her song. I feel like everybody should know that song, but then it became very popular on TikTok. It was trending, and I think she's also signed to an American record label, so I believe Americans as well should know her well enough. Like, the song is really hitting the charts right now. And then this lady made a video.
I'm loving how Tyla is having a moment right now. Black R&B girls, it is hard to get the eyes on them, and she has all eyes on her, and I'm so happy.
So she made that particular video to basically give Tyla her flowers and talk about how she was happy that a black woman is, you know, making it in the R&B world and is topping the charts and all of that. But she was corrected in the comment section by South Africans saying that this lady in question is not black, that she is colored. Okay. And then Miss Simone is the person that the South Africans were basically dragging, who made this video about Tyla. So Miss Simone went ahead to make a reply to the comments that were correcting her on Tyla's actual race. Let's play her reply.
Y'all really would save yourself so much time if you checked yourself before you post in the comment. I was gonna say something else, but I say, you know what? This is a miseducation. This is a country like barrier difference. Baby, colored is what they call the black people before we got rights in this country. Tyla is multiracial. That is what she is in an American term. You saying she's colored, not black, baby, that's why everybody's eating you up right now. Please research before you comment, guys. I'm about to do like a whole face routine. That's why I got my towel wrapped around me. But oh my God, please do your research, please.
Okay, now, obviously that comment she was replying to was by a South African that was correcting her, right? And then Miss Simone decided to basically correct the person that, okay, do your research, you're misinformed, you need to educate yourself. So basically she was telling the South Africans that colored is not a term they should be using to describe themselves because of the history the word has in the United States, forgetting the fact that the United States and South Africa have two different histories. So, you know, definitely. So by what she said, I can understand the fact that she was trying to be like, okay, colored is not a good word to refer to people who have black heritage, right? So don't refer to this lady Tyla like that. But she's forgetting that you can't tell people who have an identity, who identify themselves as colored, that their own racial identity does not matter. You don't have a right to redefine, because it's already something that exists. It's been existing apparently. To redefine their race for them and tell them what they are, when they are telling you this is not what we are, this is what we call ourselves over here in South Africa, right? So can you guys imagine what happened? She was dragged, you guys. South Africans have no chill. So there were series and series of responses. I'm just going to play some of the videos that Simone made, and when you see the videos, just right above the videos, you guys will be able to read the comments she was responding to.
So let's rewind to the very beginning of all of this. I made a video highlighting an artist that was promoted on R&B playlists. If you don't believe me, go to Spotify and Apple. I then see my comments blowing up because someone had called her colored, and people were confused because colored is a term in America that is a dog whistle. Because yes, it is used in South Africa to describe an ethnic group. However, in America, white supremacists basically declared that for us, basically anyone not white. That was designated to Black African Americans during segregation in the 50s. I pointed that out to the person that commented it, saying, hey, colored is a dog whistle over here, so yeah, it's probably why you're getting like jumped in the comment. But now I'm erasing somebody's entire heritage by saying that she's mixed. I'm also very aware that every country outside of the US does not know about American history. But I want to make the distinction. There is a difference between American history and Black history. In America, if she were here, even just visiting, calling her colored would be considered a slur, because that's the term white people used to say to anyone that was not white. Therefore, she will be referred to as mixed because she's more than two races and or ethnicities. No one is erasing heritage. We're using simple language. One word can have two different histories to two different groups of people. Sweetie, this is not about racial identity. This is literally people being confused with terms that mean multiple things in multiple places. South Africa, colored is what you use for people who are multiracial. However, colored in like America, as well as like parts of Europe, that was used as like racial definitions. Have y'all not seen pictures of like back in like the 50s and 60s where we had colored bathrooms? That was the vision. That was the vision. That's literally what we're saying. Different meanings for different locations. It's so simple. Don't make this any complicated. So you think after a threat of doxing my personal information, including my home address, my phone number, and any other personal information that they found that can pose a risk to me, my family, and anyone associated with me, is going to be the thing that gets you an apology? Like, I really need for y'all to get out of the Delulu bubble and just think logically. So this is how y'all demand an apology. Okay. Y'all just made this way more worse.
So you guys have heard from Miss Simone, and I think I get where she's coming from, because from what she said, she was basically trying to explain to the person who was being attacked in the comments for calling Tyla colored, that okay, this is why you're being attacked, because we Americans see colored as a different kind of word. Okay, she had initially said Tyla is black, which she was wrong, but I don't think she doubled down on saying Tyla is black. I think after they corrected her about colored, she started saying Tyla is multiracial. And I don't mean any disrespect, please, you guys, because even I myself just knew about colored people not too long ago, and I had to do my research even while gathering all these stitches and everything about this video, right? So the impression I'm getting, I don't think colored people like to be referred to as multiracial people, but from the definition, that's the definition there, they obviously are made up of different ethnic groups, but they are South African. So some of them have African heritage, some have Asian heritage, some have European heritage. That was what I gathered from the definition. So all in all, I don't think this should have blown up the way it did. But let's just go ahead and watch the videos of the stitches and responses. Now, the South Africans went in, but I didn't want to just play responses from South Africans alone. I wanted to play responses from everybody, like Americans, other Africans, like, so that we can see. But just know that every South African, they went in. Like, if I wanted to do a video talking about the dragon, it will take a whole video on its own, like a dedicated video to the dragon itself. But I'm going to be playing everybody's opinion. Let's go right ahead and see the stitches.
Tyla is multiracial. That is what she is in American terms.
Let's play a little game called Guess Her Race. Go, Kim Kardashian. And never is yet, because I know for an absolute fact that not everybody gave the same answer to that question. And I know that because I've had this exact discussion on TikTok, and there was this massive debate on whether or not Kim K was white. Armenian people were mad. Ooh, they was big mad, talking about how dare y'all classify her as white. Are y'all saying that all Armenian people are white? And then the Americans were like, obviously she's white. What are y'all talking about? Yet no one seemed to consider that maybe both sides are correct. Very similar concept in this discussion about Tyla and her race. Tyla herself and all of South Africa are obviously correct. She's colored. However, this creator is also technically correct when she said the part that I stitched at the beginning, that Tyla is mixed race in American terms. Keyword in American terms. The thing that a lot of people seem to be missing is that race is a social construct, as we know. It was literally pulled out of the booty holes of white Europeans in like 17th, 18th century Europe. They created this whole construct and system around it called racism, and then they spread that shit through colonialism, colonization, all that. Because of that, race operates differently depending on where you are in the world, the languages being used, the cultures that were created around it, all of that. So someone like the creator I stitched will probably be classified as black wherever they go in the world. But someone like Tyla may be classified differently depending on where she is in the world, who is perceiving her at that time. Race is all about perception. For example, going back to Kim K, her skin color, her hue is not the only factor that contributes to how her race is perceived. It's also her social status, her class, her wealth, her storyline, all of that. Let me clarify this because I know how y'all be. This video is not at all defending the original creator. They are obviously in the wrong, and it's even more disappointing that they've apparently been to South Africa, Johannesburg specifically, and the fact that you've been there and you still don't have an understanding of how race operates there, the history, the culture, that's obviously disappointing. I admit I had to take a step back when I first saw the video because I initially approached it from a judgmental standpoint because I was like, babe, how do we not know this? And even if you didn't know, how are you not listening to South Africans when they're telling you that you're wrong? And then, and this is what a lot of y'all are also doing, I did the whole, well, I'm not American, I'm Canadian. I don't have that same level of ignorance. I already knew that about the different racial classifications in South Africa, but I've also been to South Africa as well, Cape Town specifically, and I went there to study, to understand apartheid, to understand the culture and the history. So for all of y'all being hella judgmental, listen, it's valid. It's valid, but a lot of y'all also don't understand that race operates differently depending on where you are in the world, and y'all have made a very similar mistake to this creator in different contexts about different people. Y'all remember that debate about that Tunisian artist on TikTok who moved to the States and everyone's talking about how she's white, but then all the Tunisians were like, no, she's not white, even though both of y'all were correct? I'm just saying that outside of the South African people who have been creating education around this topic, I'm seeing a lot of y'all pass judgment toward this American black woman who made this big ass obvious mistake. Meanwhile, y'all have done very similar things. You just didn't do it in video format. You just didn't get caught arguing about someone's race on TikTok. Meanwhile, the people that you're arguing with may have a different understanding and perception of race based on where they are in the world. When it comes to somebody's race, sometimes there is more than one correct answer. If you filled a room with one person from every country in the world and you sat Tyla in front of all of them, not everybody's going to give you the same answer. You're going to get varying answers. So if you're not South African and you're having fun at this creator's expense, you're talking shit, you're laughing, you're creating the stitches, you're commenting, and you didn't know some of the stuff that I said in this video, check yourself. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Y'all really would save yourself so much time if you checked yourself.
I say there's nothing funnier to me than an American talking about misinformation. And the ironic thing is, you guys are not stupid. The USA is ranked number 11 in the world's most educated populations. So you guys aren't dumb. You're not stupid. You're just arrogant. Because you literally believe with your whole fucking heart that if it applies to America, it applies to everyone else in the world. But yeah, from where I'm standing in South Africa, the only person that needs to check themselves is you, honey.
Check yourself.
You really would have saved yourself if you actually took your own advice. You really, really should take your own advice. Because there's a reason that people commented, she is not classified black in South Africa. Emphasis on South Africa. And not one person commented or two people commented, multiple people commented. But you didn't take it upon yourself to go and research and find out why is it that these people keep on saying the following. Mind you, that colored people are not only in South Africa, they're in Zambia, Namibia, etc. But you didn't even take the time to understand. You were dismissive of a whole group of people and their history. And what I find very interesting about a lot of Americans, do you guys ever factor in or even consider that there are other people outside of America with a history that have to be respected just like yours?
I literally was going to stay out of this conversation because I'm not South African, I'm Nigerian. I'm sure everybody knows that. But like, the Americans on this app will not let us rest. So this morning when I woke up, I saw one girl, her name is Simone, fighting South Africans that Tyla is black. When they finished telling her that Tyla is colored, she even replied and said that colored is the name they used to call black people in America before the slave trade was abolished. And South Africans are telling you that outside of America and the slave trade, South Africa has black people, colored people, and white people. They keep trying to explain to you that this is a term that means people of people that have they're from multiple different ethnicities together, like multiracial people. In South Africa, they refer to them as colored. Still, she's fighting. She's telling them to go and read a book. Girl, the only person that needs to read a book right at this rate is you. But also back to this video that I'm stitching. This lady says, I'm proud that as a South African, Tyla is getting the international recognition that she deserves as a South African artist. Look at people crying in the comment section. That where is she really from? She just said she's South African. How do people not know that South Africa has white people? Even Zimbabwe has white people. Like, why are you so shocked? Do you think that white people are only from Europe and America? Because again, I will never get the logic. You people read, please. Like, just Google, can there be white people from South Africa? Google it. I'm pretty sure you will see the information that you need. But also, in case you're not sure, you don't know, stop arguing with the people that are from that country. That's the rubbish people do. When I come here and I see something I don't know, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that. If I feel like knowing more about it, I go to Google, type it out, and I get the information that I need, and I keep quiet and I mind my business. But no, you people, you are fighting with South Africans about where they come from. You are fighting with South Africans about colored people. You people need to rest on this app. You need to take a lot of rests. Americans, please.
You checked yourself before you post it in the comments.
Everything she says in this video is so ironic because she could have checked herself before making that video. So here's the context. She's responding to that commenter saying that Tyla is colored, not black. Because in a previous video, she said this.
I'm loving how Tyla is having a moment right now of her song Water. She's a South African artist and black R&B girls, it is hard to get the eyes on them.
Like she said in that very video, a South African artist, and she has a South African person in her comments telling her that she's colored, not black. And then goes on to say stuff like this.
This is a miseducation. This is a country, like, barrier difference. Baby, colored is what they called black people before we got rights in this country.
And what country is Tyla from?
She's a South African. She's a South African.
Tyla is multiracial in American terms.
She's a South African artist. She's a South African artist.
Please research before you comment, guys.
If she had followed her own advice and done some research, she would have found that in South Africa, colored is a term for mixed ethnic origin. And while it may be offensive in some Western countries like the USA, she even says it's a country divide and talks about what the word means in America. A little bit of research could have told her that it's a neutral term in South Africa. And guess what? Tyla is of mixed descent. When looking at ethnic demographics of South Africa, you'll find colored people are a separate category from black. You didn't even need to do the research in ethnic terms of South Africa. You could have just looked at what she says herself. I saw a South African who did a great response to this that's tagged in the caption. But as a linguist, I want people to understand something. Even if we can draw comparisons between American racial segregation and South African apartheid, and while many South Africans speak English just like Americans speak English, that does not mean we speak the same English. The world is a lot more diverse than many of us realize. The way we speak is also extremely diverse. Just because a word is offensive to you does not mean it's offensive to other people. Even when you acknowledge that it's some kind of country divide, you're talking to South Africans about a South African and telling them that the way you use the word is more correct. The way you speak English and the way you use words is not better or more correct than anybody else. Hopefully we all know by now that race was created for the purposes of segregating people on no scientific basis. What you define as a certain race is completely arbitrary. So there's literally nothing you could say about race that's scientifically more accurate than anybody else. Other people may use terms that are offensive to you, and that's okay because it's not offensive in their culture. They do not have to bend a root backwards to accommodate you. They do not have to change their culture to accommodate your preferences. And if you're going to speak speak about people from a different culture, you need to understand that.
Colored is what they called black people before we got rights in this country.
Draw lesson further, Sophie. Ma'am, in South Africa, she's colored. And Tyla did post a video around last year. She was wearing like black and white beads with a black and white outfit, doing her hair. She said that she's colored. So for you to say that she's not colored when she clearly calls herself colored, it's I don't know what. And then you say it's miseducation towards us coloreds. Yo, bruh, like, you saying that we should have done our research, while you should have gone to Tyla's page and checked that video. She still has it on her page. She did say most that she's colored. So you were the one that was supposed to do research and stop talking too much. Keep quiet if you don't know what to say, my sister. And it's not Tyla, it's Tyla. Understand? Thank you.
I don't have an issue with her being colored. I was talking about this from a PR and marketing level, and I'm just telling you, no black person or white person or anything else in America is going to call that girl colored because of the word's history in America. And when she gets back to South Africa, and if in the UK her PR management team calls her colored, that's fine. But they're just not going to call her that in public out here. It's not happening. It's bad for business. That baby won't make no money. And that's what this is about. And someone in these comments said, I can respect that she's colored, but I don't get why I have to say a word that's a slur in my language. And that makes sense, because you know how in the UK they call the cigarettes the F word? No one, if you called even if you were referring to a cigarette as like the F word out here in America, that's crazy as fuck. It's the same, colored with a U, colored girl magic. I have no issue with it, but her team is trying to make her money. And what they're going to do is market her to the people who look like her and are going to relate to her, and the people who listen to her music, which are colored people, black people, mixed people, whatever you want to call them in whatever country you're in. Because at the end of the day, it's all giving the same shit with different names and remixes on what we got going on, because we're not in the same place. But she's getting marketed to the motherfuckers who are like herself. So they're going to use the names that the people in this country use. Now, when we back in her country, colored girl magic, colored with a U. When she's in this country, she's on the cover of Essence. And she's trying to make money. We on here having discourse. We on here going back and forth. She didn't even really talk about this shit. Why? Because she trying to stuff her pockets. She want everybody money. She want the black Americans money. She want the colored people money. I know that's right. Colored and black money.
She's hilarious. But she definitely made a point, because if Tyla was in South Africa, doing her thing in South Africa, I don't think any American is going to feel they have the right to come and comment on, why here in America we consider her as so and so. But I believe Tyla was signed to an American record label back in 2021. So she probably is in America, being marketed to Americans. And of course, they're going to look for the demographic that will very likely relate to her, right? Which is very likely the black people, the colored people, in quotes, the multiracial people. Those are the people that are probably going to listen to her music. Sorry guys, when I saw that music video and I saw Tyla, I saw the skin, I knew she had some black in her, but I knew she had something else in her. I knew she wasn't just a regular black girl. I knew that she definitely had different ethnicities or races as part of her heritage, right? But I could still relate to her as someone who is part black. Do you understand? So I think that's definitely going to be a marketing strategy for them. She had braids on, right? So I can understand why Americans feel like they have an input, because this is an artist that is over there being marketed to them as a black or as a multiracial person. But there is emphasis on her black side so that these people can buy her music. These black people there can buy her music. Do you guys get? So I think that's why they feel like they have a say in how they should refer to Tyla in terms of race. Now, I'm not saying it's right for them to disregard the history of coloreds in South Africa, but if they feel like it's a slur and they don't want to say it, fine. But that still does not mean that they should be educating the South Africans on why they should not call themselves colored, because at that point, you're passing your boundary. You have no right to go and tell people how to identify themselves or what to call themselves. And like we black people, I know about the one drop rule and all of that, but we need to stop claiming people who don't see themselves as part of us, really.
Baby, colored is what they called black people before we got rights in this country.
Girl, so I like your content generally, but I think I know, we all know, you made a mistake.
Personally, I wouldn't want to offend South African TikTok. Seems like you offended them. They are trying to let you know that colored is literally how they have their own history there. I don't think you should fight tooth and nail to claim anybody black who literally doesn't want to be black and also isn't black. Also, with this like narrative of saying like, oh, colored is what was used in America, so like why would they use that term? The term people of color is also a term that has been modified within this American context, within the West, right? But in the day, colored was also for black people. So words change in different meanings. I think it's just best for you to give a sincere apology and just let it go.
If you checked yourself.
Calling a colored South African just black or just mixed race is such a deep oversimplification and erasure of the culture, history, language, and heritage that they have built for themselves as colored people.
I am loving this whole colored black discourse currently going on because it's us South Africans basically saying, hey, stay in your American business. You don't get to come here and tell us how we define and treat our own people. However, this conversation is a little bit more nuanced than some of us may want to acknowledge, right? And I just want to discuss those points today. Now, disclaimer, I do know a lot more about American history than I do South African history, so feel free to check me in the comments if I say something out of place. One of the points that I'm seeing made a lot is that you cannot just call colored people black because it is dismissive of the culture, the heritage, the dialect that they have created for themselves, right? But when you really look at this point, it doesn't really stand because it implies that black people are a monolith, and that is totally false. Black people also come from a diverse set of cultures, languages, heritages. So the argument doesn't really make sense from that point of view, because you can still get a black person who can say, hi, my name is Tyra, I am black, and fall under the colored culture. Just as you can get a black person who can say, hi, my name is Temba, I'm black, but I'm part of the Zulu culture. So it could work that way. However, again, it gets a little bit more complex than this, so let us look at our history. The reason why the whole colored race was basically created, or the reason why people were categorized under coloreds, is because it was difficult for the system in place, apartheid, at that time, to simply classify them as either black or Indian or white. Because while they were a result of interracial relations, the relations weren't as black and white, right? It wasn't just as a result of black and white relationships, but also black and South Asian relations, white and South Asian relations. Therefore, grouping them under colored was just an easier way of giving them a race. However, we need to acknowledge that one of the most important points of the apartheid system was one's proximity to whiteness, right? So the closer you were to white, the more privileges you got, and the further you were away from white, the more cruelly or like badly you were treated, right? Therefore, within the colored sphere, you would get colored people being promoted to whiteness based on how passing they were. And this was, one of the smartest things the apartheid system could have done. I'm not praising it, right? But I'm acknowledging how smart it was. Because by doing this, right, by promoting certain colored people to white based on how passing they were, because remember, proximity to whiteness was everything during the apartheid system, you sprinkled some anti-blackness in there, because now you associated your proximity to whiteness with more privilege, with more benefits, with better treatment. When the apartheid system collapsed, and I use collapsed very lightly because we still see ripple effects in today's time. When it collapsed, you got colored people fighting tooth and nail to not be categorized as black, because the system had already instilled this ideology that being closer to blackness or being categorized as black was a no-go, because that meant no more privileges, no more, systematic power, none of that. This is why you even get some colored people who pass as black, who are even darker than me, with more coarse hair than me. This is not me saying that those identities make a black person, but who are clearly, present as black, argue with you tooth and nail, because to them, being black is just not a good association at all. So as much as we want to acknowledge that, yes, it would be dismissive to just call them all black, because some of them don't even have a drop of blackness in them. You're just erasing their heritage. We also need to acknowledge why the pushback is happening, because this is not the first time we've had this conversation within the South African context, right? Because anti-blackness and racism kind of have elements within that whole argument as well. So this conversation is very it's very nuanced, right? Therefore, I feel Americans need to educate themselves on South African history in order to fully understand what they're saying before they start making this label all colored people as black argument. But South Africans also need to make themselves aware of the American slave system and all of the complexities and issues that came with that in order to be able to recognize the parallels. So as we move forward with that, let us recognize all of these isms and phobias and antis, you know, in order to properly make informed arguments for the conversation.
So I think I kind of like her explanation because she kind of broke it down to how the colored race came to be, and you know how they kind of used it as a tool, that you know, different racial classifications as a tool of white supremacy during apartheid. I think that's what she said. She said that it kind of created some form of anti-blackness also in the colored community. And I've actually come across some TikTok videos made by colored people in South Africa talking about how they have anti-blackness in their community as well. So I think it's a thing. At this point, there's anti-blackness in almost every community, even in the black community itself. So it doesn't surprise me. And I think that anti-blackness kind of showed itself in this particular comment that they made referring to her as a baboon. Because if you are a black person, you know that is kind of how anti-black people refer to black people. That's a derogatory term they use. They call you a monkey or a baboon or an ape or whatever. We are being compared to primates, right? For someone to say that in the course of that argument, like
you checked yourself.
South Africans, she is both right and wrong at the very same time. When I first came to South Africa, there were a lot of things I didn't know the difference between. Like, I didn't know the difference between Hebo and Hadida. I didn't know the difference between Biltong and Biscite. I didn't know the difference between robot and robot. Well, because they're two different words and they sound the same, but they're different. And I definitely didn't know the difference between and colored. So, for instance, I can't say that really in America if it's referring to a person, but I can say colored all the time when it's referring to someone in South Africa. It's a different word with a different history. It's not only spelled differently, it's different. It's like the N-word. We don't say the N-word in the United States, and you have a K-word, which I didn't know was a bad word. I never heard of it before until I got to South Africa. It has a different history. And according to the NAACP, that word, the N-word, is totally banned in the United States. So the bottom line is, she's right. In the United States, we don't use that word. It's a derogatory term. In South Africa, it's a different word. And the moral of the story is, U.S. history is not global history. Yeah, it turns out that our history is for us, and your history is different, and so we don't need to impose our history on South Africans.
At the end of the day, I think both parties had a point. The colored people have a right to defend their race and, you know, their ethnicity. They are proud of the culture that they've built, the history that they have, and nobody has the right to come and dismiss all of that and tell them that this is what you are, this is what you're not. I believe the African woman who made the video, the Simone lady, at first obviously was thinking from the African American history point of view. She probably has that Pan-African mindset. That's what I think. I don't think she really meant harm, but where it became problematic was when she kept doubling down when the South African people were correcting her. She could have simply just apologized and said, oh, this is what I meant and this is why I said it this way, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dismiss your history. I didn't mean to dismiss your racial identity, and just let it go. Just let it, like, it wasn't that deep. It was like, you guys, it was a big deal. This thing went from TikTok to Twitter to everywhere. It was really, really big, to the extent that the lady had to like take some time off TikTok and had to change her TikTok name so that people could stop tagging her, and maybe to make it difficult for people to find her. It was difficult for me to actually find her and follow up on this story. So for it to get to the point where she was being threatened and doxxed and all of that, I feel like we as Africans, like, we can do better. She's one of us. We didn't have to do that. I feel like we didn't have to do that. I understand the outrage, but I feel like we didn't have to do that. Whenever we're doing these diaspora wars and fighting each other, and then they're over there saying, you Americans are dumb, you Americans do this, and then Americans themselves too actually felt offended because they're like, this is someone that's marketed to us as a black person, she's wearing cornrows. I saw people in the comment section talking about how they are probably going to stop supporting Tyla if they're going to be getting attacked over this colored and not colored racial classification issue thing that obviously seems to always come along with her. I'm just going to play some of the comments on the screen at this point. It really ticked some people off because in the midst of correcting this lady and all the drama that was going on, they were kind of basically generalizing Americans as being dumb and wanting to impose their history on everybody else. So Americans did not like that. And then the black people felt like if colored people probably have black race, that what is so bad that you all have to double down so much and deny it? Like, are you guys anti-black? All in all, I think he didn't really have to go that far. It wasn't that deep. I think she should have just apologized, really. You guys, please let me know what you think in the comment section. As an African American, do you think you can refer to a colored person with the term colored? Like, do you think it's something you can do, or you won't do that because you see it as a slur, just like this lady was trying to explain to them? And as a colored person in South Africa, do you think it's that deep? Like, okay, she's colored. I understand that in America they might not be able to call her that. We're okay with it if they call her multiracial. Or do you insist that they should refer to colored people as colored people even in America, regardless of if it's a racial slur or whatever? What is your opinion? And did you hear about this drama? You guys let me know. I just want to know what you guys think. Let's have a discussion in the comment section. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.